Bulavanaka and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this Ministry of Economy press conference. This afternoon, we will hear from the Attorney-General and Minister of Economy, Honorable Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum, who will be giving an update on the implementation of the $360 cash update and the status of the certain rollout and disbursements of this funding. I now call upon the Attorney-General and Minister of Economy to provide his update.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As announced on Monday this week, we had disbursed funds to 232,893 Fijians, of which $83.8 million of the $100 million in fact had been paid out. We still, of course, had a number of people that still needed to be paid out, and we had to carry out the verification process. Since Monday, we have paid out, as of this afternoon, another 46,800 Fijians have actually received the $360, which equates to $16.9 million. So it's slightly over $100 million, in fact, has been paid out into the economy through these people within a week. We expect another 3,900 people to be paid by tomorrow, but these are the people who receive reduced amounts. And the reason why these people receive the reduced amounts is because they, the last time, overclaimed. You know, those who received $50 2 or 3 times or had $90 twice because they tried to fraud the system, essentially. But what we've done is reduce the amounts that they will receive this time from that amount. We expect another 6,850 people in the next few days, over the weekend and early into next week, to be paid once the TIN numbers are verified. We found that some people have been, in fact, not giving the right TIN numbers or made mistakes. The reason why I have to check TIN numbers is because it also helps us verify against the SIM card registration. We have found that some people deliberately are putting in wrong TIN numbers to essentially bypass the system. And so we have to be very careful. And the reality is that this verification process, together what has been done previously, has helped us to get very good data now. So those people who intend to apply for the 360 in the next round need to be fully minded that the next time these sorts of leeways or these type of time frames won't be given to individuals. They have to give us the correct numbers, and they have to ensure that the information that they provide is accurate and most up to date. As you know, that we announced also last week that there were some people who applied in the right period but did not get their first dose by then. So we've given them time till tomorrow afternoon to get their first jab. If they do, by close of business, they'll also be paid out. That involves about 2,120 people. As we've highlighted also previously, that there are some people who have been trying to bypass the system. We've discovered that there are some people who are using dead people's SIM cards to get the 360. So far, we've identified 21 different applications where people are using members in their family who've deceased or who have died, and they've tried to use their names or their TIN numbers or their SIM cards. Similarly, as you know, that we did say there's over 4,000 civil servants who also applied who weren't eligible. Now, under the category of FNPF, this also includes municipal councils too. So we've got the whole list. We know who the individuals are, and their names will be sent to the respective permanent secretaries to carry out any disciplinary action, and also to the municipal councils. FNPF, as you know, we had made an announcement that FNPF, under the FNPF scheme, those in the formal sector outside Viti Levu are also eligible, who had been receiving unemployment benefit previously. They're also eligible. That application has opened up yesterday, and will stay in place until the 1st of September, which is next week, Wednesday. So we urge those people in the formal sector who were under the FNPF scheme or who have become unemployed in the formal sector, in other words, they had FNPF account, etc., they have till next Wednesday to apply. And again, government will foot the bill of the 360 through the FNPF scheme. Anybody else that actually has not received any or won't receive any funds after all of these people are paid out will need to understand that they have either already on some other type of benefit from government, on social welfare, poverty alleviation scheme, or on TELS, or receiving any other type of benefit from government, so therefore they won't be eligible. I also wanted to highlight, and in fact apologize to some of the people who have, it's taken a little bit more time for them to actually receive their 360. In particular, those people who met all the criteria, and the only issue that was left standing was their vaccination record. As you know, that we have highlighted previously that we have discovered some anomalies in the registration of the person when they went to get their first jab and the digital recording of that. So as you know that there are all the staff, the frontline people who are carrying out the jabs or giving the jabs, had to ensure that when you went, and if you did not pre-register, a lot of people did not pre-register. They went on the day itself and they wanted to register. So a lot of the people, the information was actually put on the tablets, but the staff or the nurses did not sync it in with the digital records. So this is why when people who applied for the 360, we weren't able to get the records up front from Communications Fiji or the Digital Fiji team. So that's why it's taken a bit longer. We had 57,913 people in that category, and 48,000 of those, 46,800 of those have already been paid. The others, the verification process is still taking place. We found that these anomalies, apart from the syncing of the tablet with the back frame, then in some cases we found that the people who are administering the jabs, or who in fact were doing, I should say, administering the records, did not even register it at all. So they've got the register in their logbooks, they have got the consent forms, but they did not pass on that information. So we, in the past 2-3 weeks, we have a team of about 200 people, even prior to the 360, who are actually bringing all these records up to date. We found that the common occurrence of this took place at the vaccination drive at Prince Charles Park in Nandi. There was a couple of places in Ba and Tavua, and there were some cases in Lautoka and Raki. So that's why it's taken slightly longer, because we had to verify. The good thing about all of this is that it's actually helped us to ensure that those anomalies no longer exist, and the digital registration, as far as these people are concerned, is now more up to date than previously. So it's provided a focus. And I'd like to thank the people behind the scenes. We have approximately 200 staff that have been working on this. A lot of them are teachers who are helping out. They, of course, are being paid for it. But they are based in Suva, they're based in the Western Division, who are going to the actual physical records, going to the logbooks, going to the consent forms, and then making sure that it's digitally recorded. So again, the next time when we roll out the 360, there should not be any issues, and indeed the period it'll take to do the payments will be will be dealing with far greater efficiency. We have also had a number of people who, for example, have applied, and whilst they're still engaged formally, they're saying, look, I work 1 day less and therefore I should be given the 360. Well, no, they are not eligible for that. This is eligible for those people who are actually unemployed completely, whether in the informal or the formal sector. So please try and understand that. We have also at the same time ensured that the processes that have been put in place, like I said, the data gathering has been very good. We also are making sure that all the records, with all the different agencies are, of course, up to date. And we have, at the same time, have a list of all the outstanding issues that we could use to implement to ensure that we achieve greater efficiency. I would like to actually thank all the staff from the Ministry of Economy. In fact, there's about 20 odd of them, some working from home, some from the offices. A lot of them, in fact, we have a group of people who tend to get very impatient with their 360 applications. A lot of, in fact, being very abusive to some of the staff, and I'd like to thank them for their forbearance. Ministry of Communication staff, Digital Fiji team, Ministry of Civil Service, TSLB, Ministry of Social Welfare, FRCS, FNPF staff, and they have all contributed to ensuring that this is a massive rollout. It's unprecedented. This number of people have never been paid out this amount of money within a week. So obviously, it has been a very successful, initiative, and we've had a lot of people who've come back to us who have thanked us. They've said that they've been able to use the funds for, very important purposes. It's been a wide range. Some people have gone off and bought shoes. Some people have bought food. Some people have bought clothes. They bought stuff for their babies, for their families. A lot of people have, in fact, paid their EFL accounts. Those people who, for example, are on the prepay system, have used the M-Pesa facilities, and they have, in fact, made those payments. So there's a wide range of uses that people have utilized these funds for, and would of course, encourage them to obviously use those funds responsibly. So that's the update, and once we've finalized this actual rollout, by middle of next week sometime, we'll be able to give you then the end figures itself. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Shelvin from Fiji Sun. This is something apart from the 360. In the Fiji Times, Mr. Rambuka said that the 360 rollout is it shows a lot of irresponsible behavior from, it's fueling irresponsible behavior. What would you say to that, sir?
Sorry, are you from Fiji Times?
Fiji Sun.
Oh. So what's the story?
Mr. Rambuka in the Fiji Times said that the cash being given to people is leading to a lot of irresponsible behavior.
By who? Those people?
Those people.
Well, look, I mean, I think he needs to kind of, well, firstly, I think Rambuka wants to be relevant. And of course, Fiji Times is making him relevant by giving him front page on a very stupid comment, frankly, because the bulk of the Fijian people who have received the funds are very appreciative of it. In fact, I think everybody's appreciative of it. But the bulk of the Fijians who received this funding actually have put it to very good use. And to come out and say that it is they're being irresponsible, I think is stereotyping, which of course is well known for. The recipients of this money are people who do want it, who do need it, actually, a lot of them. And for a lot of them, it's, it means, not being in poverty or not getting access to goods and services they usually would want or their families need, to getting it. So it is critically important, and I wish all the other, all the recipients to actually sit up and see what Rambuka is saying, because obviously this goes to show what kind of leadership he will have, lack of sensitivity. In any type of social safety net provisioning, you will find that there's a small percentage of people who will perhaps abuse it. That does not mean, therefore, you victimize the rest of the 98% from getting the benefit of that particular social safety net. So it is quite silly to say that. And of course, I saw Fiji Times roll that out quite significantly, but they have not said anything positive about it. But you expect that from Fiji Times, and you expect that from somebody like Rambuka. So I don't think you should pay much attention to it.
So the Qantas in its flight plans for December has announced that routes and planes that will be visiting Fiji I believe this is good news. Are we prepared for this? And what does it say? Does this say about the confidence Australians are having in Fiji's vaccination plans?
Well, this is precisely what we have been saying. This is precisely what our Prime Minister has been saying, that the vaccination rollout is critically important. People need to recognize that in Fiji. The politicians need to recognize that, but more so, ordinary Fijians need to recognize that by getting vaccinated, getting both the doses, you are actually opening yourselves again up to economic opportunities, employment opportunities. The fact that Qantas has listed Fiji as one of the safe destinations indicates that they have confidence in our vaccination rollout, indicates that they believe that we'll be able to achieve our target, indicates that they believe that Fiji would be a safe place to take Australian tourists to. And so obviously from our perspective, that's great news, but it also means from our perspective that Fiji Airways can also fly to Australia and bring back Australians to Fiji. That for us, of course, is critically important, that our national carrier is able to exercise those privileges also in terms of flying out of Fiji into Australia and bringing tourists to Fiji. The critical issue here is this, is that, as we've said, that the vaccination rollout needs to be mutually recognized on a bilateral basis. So the fundamental issue is this. An Australian tourist will not want to come to Fiji or any other country for that matter for a holiday, firstly if the country is not safe, and secondly, that upon their return they have to go into quarantine. Nobody's going to come to Fiji for 1 week holiday having to go back to Sydney for 2-week quarantine and having to pay for it out of their own pocket. So there needs to be mutual recognition of vaccination. So, Qantas, it would appear, has that information that people from Australia coming to a holiday to Fiji won't actually have to go into quarantine. We assume that that's what it indicates.
So, a last question from my side. The recent ruling on the Nico Nawaikula case with the has somewhat set a dangerous precedent in saying that the birth certificate is not a true indicator of your identity. Now, with the elections coming in 2022, is a strict guideline going to be set in terms of registrations and for voters?
Look, I think the ruling by the Court of Disputed Returns has in fact, what I say, set the cat amongst the pigeons. And what really needs to be done is that situation needs to be corrected. I think the counsel from both the plaintiff side and the defendant side, which is, I think it was the lawyers for Honorable Nawaikula and the lawyers for the supervisor of elections, in fact did not do a good job. And obviously the court will be guided by their representations made to it. None of the counsel have actually listened to the proceedings, to the whole 3.5 hours of submissions that were made. None of them actually talked specifically about the implications of not having the correct name registered and one name registered, the implications of it in terms of any constitutional breaches. Nobody talked about that. The Constitution says specifically under Section 52 that there should be free and fair elections. How can one have fair elections if you have the ability to register your name more than once? How can you have fair elections if your registration of voters can be inflated simply because the court has now said, and using old common law, which is essentially what the council presented, old common law to say that you can also be known by your aliases. In the 21st century, where identity theft, as you know, can be carried out quite successfully, in an age where you have global terrorism, when you have transnational border crimes, you have people smuggling, when you have these kind of rollouts, the 360. So effectively what this means is that you can go and register under, name A. Honorable Nawaikula has actually 3 names. Honorable Nawai Kula was registered as Nico Nawai Kula under the registration of voters, but the name that he was picking up his parliamentary allowances was a different name, which was his BDM name. And I understand there's another name that he's known by also, different variations of the same name. So you cannot actually have a registration of voters where there is opportunity for people to be registered twice. In 2006, the EU observer group made an observation, amongst others, of course. This is when the chair of the Electoral Commission was Graham Leong, who was actually the counsel on this particular case for the plaintiff, where they pointed out a number of anomalies in terms of registration of names. There were some dead people's names on the registration of voters. Of course, in those days, they did not even have a photo ID card. So, you see, unfortunately, the counsel in this case, on both sides, did not argue the constitutional case. They did not look at the purpose behind the registration of one name and the impact it will have on the entire process, and indeed on the credibility of the electoral process. So, I mean, of course the court has made its ruling, but the court also made an observation that the law could be amended too, or alluded to it in any case, which we intend to do. We intend to bring out amendments to the existing law, and also any other consequential amendments that will be required to ensure that the name that you are registered under, your birth name, the birth registration, the birth certificate name, should be the name that you should be registered under. If, however, you change your name, you want to amend your name, there has to be a legal process. And that's the name you will then be known by. Down the street, of course, you can be called all sorts of aliases. I'm sure you got an alias too. People, friends call you. Doesn't mean, therefore, that alias name you can go and use and be registered as a voter. So that's our take on it, and we are currently studying it, and I'm in fact quite disturbed by the submissions by both sides in respect of the submissions that they made, and I think the court, unfortunately, was not briefed on all the components of the law that needed to be looked at to be able to arrive at a decision that would in fact ensure that the constitutional provision of free and fair elections will be upheld in Fiji.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Attorney General, Apinisa from FBC. Basically, sir, my first question would be on clarification. If you can just clarify if there is a threshold to the number of people who can still apply until the end of working time tomorrow. How many people are you looking at? And yeah.
Sure. Nobody can apply. All the applications are closed for the 3 days, from 9th to the 11th. What we did say was the people who applied in that window where they were supposed to apply, if at the time of the application they had not received their first dose, they met all the other criteria, they are actually unemployed, they have got their TIN number, etc. But there were about 2,000 people who applied but did not get their first dose. So we've given them opportunity until tomorrow, which we announced this last week, to get their first dose. If they get their first dose, we'll pay them the 360. So there's no new applications as such.
Thank you for that. Just on my second question, it's in relation to MP Mosese Bulitavu and the fact that he agreed on the Itauke bill that was passed in, amended and passed in Parliament. There's a lot of talks going on, especially from his own party, that he is somehow, has linked to Fiji First, given what he did in Parliament.
So what's the question?
My question is, can you clarify if he is the mould of Sodelpa into Fiji First?
No, it's not. I mean, you see, this is the problem, unfortunately, by most political parties. When you have somebody who's made a choice to, vote either way, it does not mean that they're supporting a political party. He's still obviously a member of parliament under the Sodelpa banner, and that's where he is. I could say the same. There's a lot of speculation about a lot of people in Sodelpa who want to move to Rambuka's party. Why don't you ask them that question? But that's for the individual. It's got nothing to do with us.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Hi, Sashan Ilya from Fiji Village. With regards to another initiative that was announced in the national budget regarding the $20 data for Fijian students in university and year 13.
Mm.
Can you please give an update on the rollout for that, sir?
Yeah, very soon. The year 13 one has been finalized, and we hope to do that next week. In respect of the university students, we are still working it out with the universities because it would appear that some of the lectures, etc., by the universities apparently are free, that people can access through a free platform. So we're just trying to sort that out, but we hope to get that sorted out by next week sometime.
So my second question, this is regarding the arrest of Dr. Chone Hawea yesterday. So the National Federation Party has released a statement following that. So what they're saying is these midnight arrests are becoming really frequent now. And they're also saying that...
Sorry, I really don't know what you're talking about. Who is what?
Dr. Chone Hawea, sir.
What about him?
He was arrested yesterday. So the National Federation Party has released a statement, and they're saying that these midnight arrests are becoming really frequent now. And you, as the chief legal officer, is not saying anything about it.
Well, again, the NFP is trying to get some airtime with you, which Fiji Village nowadays love to give NFP a lot of airtime for nonsensical stuff. Anybody who knows about the constitution in Fiji knows that the Fijian police force is independent. Anybody who knows about the constitution in Fiji knows that the Attorney-General's office does not deal in criminal matters. The DPP is the prosecuting agency, including police. So it's like saying that I know that every person gets arrested, we know about it. Of course we don't. It's the first time I'm actually hearing about it. So it's nonsensical for you to actually ask that question. You should, as a responsible journalist, also do your research and should put back questions to them too. Yeah.
Bulose Chale from Fiji Times. Just have a question. Can you confirm if Merseni Vuniwanga, did you agree with bill number 17? Can you confirm?
Sorry?
Ms. Merseni Vuniwanga?
Yes.
Can you confirm for us if she did agree with bill 17 or not?
You saw the voting that took place on the floor of Parliament? That answers your question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bulose Mariani from Fiji One. Just in terms of the TEL students, some of them have applied for tuition but not allowance. Do they qualify for the $360 assistance?
So say that again?
TEL students who only applied for tuition fees under
Yes.
TELs but not allowance, do they qualify for the $360 assistance?
Yeah, the team has been dealing with it. Those people who are on TELs but don't get a living allowance actually qualifies to get a 360. But if they're obviously on TELs and do get a living allowance, then they don't qualify. Yep. Anything else? Okay. Naka, thank you.